This is 13 Minutes. I'm Elliot Reeves. My guest today is Marc-John Brown. MJ, it's brilliant to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Likewise. Thank you for having me, man.
It's a pleasure. How are you, my good man?
I am very well. Yeah, very well.
Yeah?
Thank you.
I like the
Yeah.
sound of that. I like the sound of that. So let's start with the basics. Who are you?
Marc-John Brown, aka MJB, plant medicine integration coach and guide for people through the vast and colorful world of indigenous plant medicines. I'm also an indigenous educator, shamanic practitioner, and partner of a retreat center in Urubamba in Peru.
Love it. That's a quality introduction right there. We only have 13 minutes, but roughly in brief, what has been your journey and your path to doing the work you're doing now?
Hitchhiking my way through South America at age 19, marrying a Quechua woman of Peruvian Andean lineage at age 20, having really close contact with the indigenous tribes of South America by way of that. Studying shamanism, traveling the world to study shamanism and shamanic practices on a global level, then getting completely lost in the world of serial entrepreneurship, if you want to call it that, only to fall flat on my face. Well, almost flat on my face. I caught myself, and then to be fully plugged back into my life mission, which is to work hand in hand with the world's indigenous populations, and make sure that they have a voice in the world, whilst at the same time changing society's relationship to and perception of psychedelic plant medicines.
Powerful stuff. Love it.
Mm.
That's awesome. Have you? I think you're in the UK right now, right?
Yes, I'm in
You're in
Edinburgh.
but
Yes.
I don't think you've always been here for the last few months.
I was repatriated on the 30th of March from the Amazon jungle, where I was living with my maestro, who's from the Shipibo tribe of the Amazon jungle. I was repatriated from Peru.
Okay.
I forced myself to be repatriated. I knew repatriation flights were happening, and I literally forced my way onto one of those flights. Because we've got we just didn't know what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, so tell me about that. I mean, what was the earliest that you learned about what was going on and what was to come?
So I literally flew to the Amazon jungle. Friday the 13th of March, I flew from Urubamba, from Cusco to Lima. Friday the 13th, yes, that same night, I helped co-facilitate ayahuasca ceremonies in the city of Lima. Saturday, I hung around in Lima. We did more ceremonies, I think, on the Saturday. On the Sunday, which was the 15th, I flew to the jungle, Pucallpa, to my maestro's house to pick up a bottle of master plant medicines that I was going to diet with. My plan was on Wednesday, the 18th, fly back to Cusco and to do my plant diet under the guidance of my maestro, long distance from the jungle to Cusco, to the Andes Mountains. But 2 hours after I arrived in at his family home in the jungle, boom, the state of emergency hit, and the country went into strict lockdown. So I ended up staying in his place for 2 weeks. And after those 2 weeks, the lockdown was extended on the same day that I caught wind of these two repatriation flights, which were only 48 out. They were leaving from Lima, the capital, not the jungle, the capital of the country, 48 hours after that moment that I found out. And so I spent those 48 hours. I got plugged into a group of 17 stranded Brits, and I spent those 48 hours arranging a private chartered flight because the British government didn't do jack shit to help us get from the jungle to the capital.
Jeez.
And I got a group of 17 of us together with two other really potent team members. We made a team of three. We got us onto a flight from the Amazon jungle to the capital, and by the skin of our teeth, thanks to the military who were on the ground, and the embassy officials, they managed to postpone the repatriation flights by 3 hours just to get us squeezed onto it. So yeah, that's how it rolled.
Moly. Wow. Well, so good to be home, I guess.
Well, in some ways and in some ways, no, right? I mean, I was in the process of emigration, right? Laying down the foundations for my wife and my daughter to come over and join us. But Well, that didn't happen. What is really good is that I get to be with my wife and my daughter in these times of uncertainty, right? Who the hell knows when the borders are going to open again, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
only about 2 weeks after I left the jungle, only about 2 weeks after I left the jungle, it hammered. It started to hammer the jungle and all the indigenous populations over there. I've got friends who have family members and close friends who are, they're losing relatives and friends like every day to COVID still now
Jeez.
today. So
I'm really
yeah,
sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's awful. It's awful.
yeah.
What are your thoughts about the whole situation and really what's happening in the world just now?
Oh my goodness! To sum that up in a brief, uh, total arse kicking for humanity. Like in many ways, a lashing out of the consciousness of nature,
Yeah.
give us a real arse kicking. And it's now that it becomes very apparent just how totally irresponsible as a race we've been up until now, right? So that's what's happening. We're learning a big fat lesson,
Mm.
but also we're being given this hiatus, if that's how you pronounce it, um, and a space to really become reattuned with ourselves, and also be rebirthed into the world. I do believe in I'm optimistic. I hold a positive kind of outlook on things, and I do believe that this will prove to be positive in the long term.
Yeah. Is your belief system such that you think that what's happening just now is happening for a greater reason?
Absolutely, yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
insights do you have on that?
Well, with the indigenous populations, so many of the indigenous populations, because they are so connected to the earth, and because they're so earth honoring and earth based and earth birthed and earth rooted and earth everything.
Yeah.
Um, they many of those of the populations, I mean, bless them, because they are the ones that are suffering right now because of COVID. But essentially, their prayers came true, right? They have been praying for the world to pause,
Mm.
right? For everything to just pause, to give Mother Earth a chance to breathe once more, and that's exactly what is happening right now, right?
Yeah.
You know, like my condolences and deepest sentiments to everybody out there who is losing
Yeah, of course.
family members and friends, right? But
Mm-hmm.
that is essentially what is happening. And yeah, these are times of transformation. The Mayans professed a complete turnaround in human consciousness,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and in the grand scheme of time and of things, and time and space. Um, like, this is just a split second,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a split second in which we are, um, in earthly years, it might even take, the best part of 100 years, but still, in the grand scheme
Yeah.
of time and space, that is a
Mm-hmm.
split second. It's the blink of an eye. And it's one where we get to change the course of change our trajectory on this earth, which, if we don't change it, then we will drive ourselves to extinction, literally, as we have done with many other species on this earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jeez. Certainly food for thought.
yeah.
In what way do you think the world will start to change as a result of this?
I think first and foremost, people are more connected to themselves. And if they haven't become connected to themselves, then they will on the other side, because the only reason that people haven't become connected to themselves through this process is either because they've continued to be caught up in the rat race, working from their home, working from their computers at home, or because they've been caught in the sticky, gloopy, dense energies of deep depression. And like, my heart goes out to every single person who is suffering during these times with loneliness, depression. But I also wish to congratulate those people, because those are the fertile grounds in which people transform and change. And so on the other side of this, my friends, is a connection with yourself, a bigger connection with yourself. That's the first thing. First and foremost, people will be more connected to themselves. And when we're more connected to ourselves, the world's a better place, man. Like if everybody knew who the fuck they were in the world would be a better place, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
In what way would you most like to see the world change?
Um. Oh man, I mean, I was watching Tawai last night with Bruce Parry, and I mean that's a path that I'm beginning to go down. I'm beginning to look at, how academia can complement everything that I'm doing in life right now. And Bruce Parry is a wonderful, wonderful anthropologist, and you know, I mean, yeah, I would love us to be able to be wild again. That's like my biggest prayer for Earth, is for the modern world to learn what its own wilderness is, and to allow to stop domesticating plants and animals, and allow our wild selves to interact in our wild way with those wild animals and those wild plants. Um, that's kind of utopia. But if from a pragmatic, kind of more
Hmm.
practical sense and perspective, I'd say, um, definitely to just be more sustainable, man. To understand where things come from and why they come from that place, and to understand what we need as people in terms of nutrition, well-being, self-care, and again, naturally, as an offshoot of that, the world around us will be taken better care of. Um, you know, yeah, to listen to the bloody indigenous people, man. They know what's going on. They
Hmm.
know. They
Hmm.
know they know how to live in harmony with the earth. So listen to them, right? And yeah, for us to, begin to feel that connection with nature, that is our nature, that is our essence, that is our, it is us. We are nature. Um,
Yes.
to grow plants, to and I'm talking on a pragmatic and practical level, right? Because
Hmm.
in my utopia we would be wild again, and everything would be wild again. But in
Yeah.
a pragmatic sense, to grow our own food, to be self-sustainable, to fucking replace the fuel that we use for planes and all our vehicles, to replace it with something that's so much more sustainable. Um, yeah, I think many, many people are having that realization, like, fuck, we've really fucked this, Like,
Yeah.
let many people out there are having that realization. So
Hmm.
use this as fuel to create, to seek the change that you wish to, to
Yes.
realize the change that you wish to implement. What
Hmm.
change can you make,
Hmm.
to help this?
You mentioned a little bit earlier about people that are maybe going through kind of difficult times, depression and such. What advice would you give to them?
Cold water and mindfulness. um,
Okay.
100%, man. Certainly, like, if you're Scottish, if you're Northern, and if you're white skinned, give that cold water stuff a bash. My wife is from Peru. She's dark skinned, and she has real trouble with cold water. And I have African friends as well who have tried it. It just seems that darker skinned people, apart from that one crazy Malaysian guy, uh, you know. They just don't deal with it too well. But yeah, that's a massive medicine for me, is cold water, full cold water immersion, mindfulness. But on a practical level, if cold water is not for you, mindfulness is most definitely for you. It's for absolutely everybody. It's just presence in the moment, witnessing what is happening with no attachment to it. Practice it. Seek out knowledge of mindfulness. Look on YouTube. What is mindfulness? Learn about it and start to implement it in your life. Uh, Also, create a structure. If you are get a whiteboard and create a weekly timetable for yourself. What activities do you wish to do? Also think about, like, who do you want to be? Who do you want to
Hmm.
be in life? Who do you want to be? And what steps are needed to be taken by you in order to be that person that you want to be? And then break it down in your weekly schedule into activities, and assign a number of hours per week that you desire to dedicate to each activity, whether that's cooking for your family, doing 100 press ups a day or whatever. How many
Hmm.
how many hours do you want to dedicate to each activity per week?
Hmm.
If you're a total structure maniac, then go all in and be like, 6 a.m. till 8 a.m., whatever, running in the park or
Yeah.
whatever, this activity or that activity. If you're not, if you're like me, and you don't like that rigid structure, then leave it open. Put your in your schedule, make your little time slots, don't have attachment to it. Put your desired amount of hours per week in there,
Hmm.
and just allow yourself on a day by day basis to just wake up and be like, right, okay, that in that time slot, I'm going to do this activity, boom, and then keep a little tally. And once a week, check in with yourself. Come back to that whiteboard and
Hmm.
say, oh, have I got my 4 hours of cooking for the family in there? Yeah, tick that, no problem. Yeah, like get a bit of structure, get a
Yeah.
system, get a bit of make that part of a wider strategy for you to be who it is that you want to be. But that's the first question. Who am I? Who do I
Yeah.
want to be?
Mm.
And mindfulness, man. Mindfulness, presence. Like, yeah.
Dude, you've been on absolute fire today. I love
Yeah.
it. Honestly, your energy's awesome. So I just want to say a huge thank you for coming on. It's been brilliant. I've loved it. Where can people find you?
Instagram, Marc-John Brown, at Marc-John Brown. That's Mark with a C. My website, mark-johnbrown.com. And I have a radio show, wellbeingradio.co.uk /MJB. You'll get all my shows there. It's called Tribal Tonic for Mankind, all things indigenous wisdom and plant medicine guidance and advice and wisdom.
Awesome. Lucina, thanks for your comments. I hope you've enjoyed this. I certainly have. Mark, look after yourself, my man. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll speak again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, brother. Pleasure. All the
Cheers,
best.
bud.
Cheers.